The COVID-19 outbreak has put entire service sectors on hold. The cruise ship market is on the travel and leisure sectors that has been hit the hardest. The cruise line industry is a $45 billion lucrative industry contributing to millions of jobs. The pandemic has basically shut down the cruise ship business, with the three biggest cruise ship companies interrupting their operations and putting their entire fleets on hold. Carnival, the world's largest cruise operator, accounting for nearly 50% of all cruise passengers, has been at the heart of the industry's struggle against the coronavirus. COVID-19 has spread on ships across its brands, infecting hundreds of passengers and killing others. The Diamond Princess, one of Carnival's cruise ship, had an outbreak of the COVID-19, the second virus outbreak on this ship, the first one being an outbreak of gastroenteritis caused by norovirus in 2016, sickening 158 passengers and crew on board. In February 2020, the ship was quarantined for nearly a month with her passengers on board, and her passengers and crew were subject to further quarantine after disembarking the ship. At least 700 out of the 3,700 passengers and crew were infected, and 14 have died. The other two operators, Norwegian and Royal Caribbean, are also not immune to this situation. Norwegian even said that it would be forced to seek bankruptcy protection if it couldn't raise enough liquidity to keep them afloat.
I declare bankruptcy!
Time after time, cruise lines have experienced countless setbacks and disasters. They have experienced everything from norovirus outbreaks, to engine fires, to pirates attacking, to flooded cabins in 2005, where at least 62 cabins were flooded when a 70-foot wave smashed into a Norwegian Dawn ship, which was sailing from New York City to the Bahamas. The wave was so big and powerful, it reached up to the 10th deck. But the biggest disaster was the capsizing of Costa Concordia, an Italian cruise ship that ran aground on a reef off the coast of Tuscany, Italy in January 2012 and toppled onto its side. Yet the major cruise operators have still managed to bounce back after every crisis. This raises the question, are they too big to fail? This time might be different. The new challenge the industry is facing might not be something they have seen before. The government has effectively temporarily cancelled an entire industry. The State Department has advised that no American should set foot on a cruise ship. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which typically issues health warnings about certain regions of the world, not forms of transportation, has warned travelers against all cruise travel worldwide. The coronavirus halt has had a great impact in their revenues, that have gone from billions of dollars to zero. Their share prices fell by 80% in 2020, putting their near future in question. Without a source of income, cruise operators didn't have other choice but to start searching for funds to keep them financially sustainable. The three cruise lines need liquidity to pay for their debt obligations, operating expenses and customer refunds for the cancelled trips. Norwegian said it requires more than $110 million a month to keep the company running. For Royal Caribbean, the burning rate is around $330 million, and for Carnival $1 billion a month. Their eyes were from the government, hoping it would bail them out, and the US government offered their support and understanding for the situation, but as it became clear, no money. The $2 trillion relief package the government introduced excludes companies which are not incorporated in the US and don't have significant operations in, and a majority of its employees based in the US. Under the law, companies can only qualify for a loan if they are created or organized in the United States and under the laws of the United States. While these cruise lines are all headquartered in Miami, their ships are not registered in the US, they are incorporated in foreign countries. Royal Caribbean is registered in Liberia, Norwegian in Bermuda, and Carnival in Panama. And they mostly employ foreign workers. This allows them to operate under the wage and labor laws of the country they're registered in, paying employees many times less than what they would in the United States. So the government refused to give them a helping hand from the money that comes from US taxpayers, when they pay little to no US taxes. In 2019, Carnival paid income tax expenses of $71 million on $21 billion in revenue. Royal Caribbean paid $36 million in taxes on $11 billion in revenue. And Norwegian actually showed a tax benefit, money it is owed, of $19 million on $6.5 billion in revenue. So these companies have pretty much given up on federal help and are looking for money on Wall Street. They have managed to buy time through capital markets, as well as through reducing expenses. Carnival has raised nearly $6 billion through new debt and equity positions, giving them an additional 9 months of survival with no revenue. Royal Caribbean has drawn about $3.5 billion from existing credit instruments, pledging 28 of its ships as collateral, and has laid off 26% of its U.S. staff. This has made the company sustainable for another 11 months. And after its statement that it might declare bankruptcy, Norwegian also raised just over $2.4 billion in a mix of stock and debt, which it says will give the company enough cash to outlast coronavirus and endure well over 18 months. All three cruise lines have been offering refunds to passengers whose cruise was cancelled, with Norwegian and Royal Caribbean both offering refunds of up to 125% if passengers decide to use the refund as credit on a future cruise rather than take their refund in cash. Doing this ensures they won't lose a client's deposit payment, and half of them have requested FCC and not a cash refund. Keeping their deposits in cash provides the company with more liquidity, giving it a little more of a fighting chance. To revive their post-pandemic travel seasons, the cruise lines are slashing ticket prices in order to attract customers. After Carnival announced they would start sailing again in August 1st on a select number of ports, their bookings surged 600%. Bookings were generally made by younger and healthy customers, and therefore not concerned about traveling at this time. The other companies are expected to start sailing again after the no-sail order issued by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control expires, which is set at July 24. Many people are feeling the urge to travel because of the lockdowns and simply can't say no to booking a cruise with generally low prices. Before the coronavirus pandemic brought the industry to a standstill, 2020 was poised to be a record-breaking year for the business. The industry was expecting to carry more than 32 million passengers, almost twice as many as in 2009. Even under the best-case scenario where there's containment of this virus, it could literally take up to a year for things to get back to normal. Normal cruise operations are expected to resume by 2021, and the demand is already there. Reservations for next year are up 40% from 2019, as cruise lovers try to reschedule canceled trips and new customers plan ahead. There's no question that past cruisers or those that cruise frequently will definitely return one day, but the cruise lines will still have to do a lot of persuading when it comes to first-time cruisers. As cruise companies take on improvements to save their reputations, it could change the face of cruising as we know it. Cruise Lines International Association has been working with cruise lines and the U.S. government to produce a framework of such guidelines, including more rigorous boarding procedures, better monitoring capabilities, and quarantine arrangements. Self-service buffet could soon be a thing of a past, replaced by crew-serving stations and table service. Meanwhile, the outbreak could push cruise companies to invest in more modern technologies. Sterilization robots already in use in other parts of the travel industry, such as hotels, could ensure the right sanitation standards. Technologies that increase the tourism industry's level of safety will be prioritized by the big companies in order to gain back confidence from consumers post-pandemic. All this needed changes will require heavy investment from cruise lines at a time when they are already struggling to make ends meet. That could entice demand for smaller operators that can ensure travel safety more easily, such as expeditions and river cruises, and the pandemic could accelerate a wider industry shift towards smaller-scale travel, but that level of exclusivity comes at a cost, which only a few may be able to afford in a post-coronavirus scenery. When it comes to tourism, airlines will likely recover because people have to fly for obvious personal and business-related reasons, and they will get back on planes with the appropriate measures. The hotels will also recover, and they have started to. But cruise lines, being a leisure activity that people want to feel safe and relaxed, may have a hard time recovering. And one thing is for sure, unlike past outbreaks, COVID-19 will fundamentally alter the cruising model as we know it. It took me a lot of hours to make this video, so if you enjoyed it and felt a little bit more smart and informed after watching it, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe to this channel, helping me make more videos like this.